Welcome to Sambhashana. I'm Neelima Somashekar. It's been a while that we presented some interesting conversation. Now we are back with a power packed in a new series called The Newsroom. We are inviting the brightest minds from the newsroom to present their perspective and insights on various related topics such as newsroom, editing, PR, and journalism. And this brand new series, The Newsroom, is presented by the PR Hub. Welcome to the Newsroom series. Our first guest today is Rasheed Kappan. Rasheed Kappan has over 28 years of working experience in the journalism field. He has worked with media organizations like the Times of India, the Hindu, the Deccan Herald, the News Laundry, the Federal, and the Probe. Kappan has actively immersed himself in the media transition of the digital age, foraying into podcasting, videos, social media, and infographics. He is also one of the most followed journalists on the Twitter from Bengaluru. Rashid, welcome to the Newsroom series.
Thanks for calling me here. Yeah.
Right. You started something recently called the Intensity. Could you just throw some light about that for our viewers?
Yeah. In this age, newspapers are getting onto the digital mode, and we have YouTubers, and the social media is exploding. So I thought, why not combine the tools of social media with news delivery? So I started Intensity launched with a Freedom episode on August 15th. So I'll be tackling mobility, nostalgia, and travel.
Okay.
So I'll exploring mobility in all its myriad forms.
Is this intensity some kind of focused on the issues of Bengaluru?
Yeah, primarily Bangalore, but I'm also looking at a lot of mobility related issues like the lack of proper public transport avenues, cycling, walking, the challenges, the infrastructure problems, and all that from a Bangalore perspective, but also expanding it to other Indian cities and looking at the best practices and trying to draw parallels between other cities and Bangalore.
Rashid, before moving into our core subject on journalism and PR, a little bit of a little bit of, because we both are connected to Bengaluru, just a couple of thoughts. Bengaluru was not designed or built to be a startup city or be it an IT thing. What are your thoughts about it? Because we've seen it's so crowded right now, no?
Yeah, so Bengaluru was totally unprepared for this IT boom. Yeah, so when the big industries were given land, they got land at quite a lot of tax concessions in Electronic City, Whitefield, and all that. But in the process, what they brought in people from all over the world, especially India. So, but the infrastructure, the roads especially, was adequate for only 4 lakh vehicles. I'm talking about the early 2000s. But then we have nearly 1.3 crore Bangaloreans right now, and almost 1 crore vehicles. But the infrastructure has not kept up pace with that.
Yeah. So, but how do we, because the city is going to continue to grow, but how do you think, is there any kind of solution, or what do you think that there could be a solution for it? Other than moving to a different place right now, do you think would that be a solution?
So there are 2 aspects to it. One is trying to tackle the city itself by retrofitting some of the best mobility practices elsewhere.
Yes.
Which is a very hugely difficult situation. The other aspect is try to diversify the city and take the population off to tier 2 cities, or develop tier 2 cities, and build connections between Bangalore and those tier 2 cities on the periphery. But what is happening is, since there's no master plan, the master plans of the past have been violated with impunity. So what we have is totally unregulated growth on the outskirts. Bizarre kind of, we had a green belt that was violated.
Yes.
We had the revised master plan, even that has not been implemented. So what happens is that we think only 5 years ahead or 10 years ahead at the most, where we should be talking about 25 to 30 to 50 years ahead, and then plan. We should have a vision. Only then we can plan properly.
All right, interesting. Now, coming back to the actual topic of what we are discussing about today, a newsroom is something that every PR person aspires, to know what exactly happened. Can you just give us an overview what exactly happens in a newsroom, from your point of view?
Okay, so I have been a mainstream journalist for nearly 28 years,
Yes.
although now over the last 2 years I've been an independent multimedia journalist. But in those 28 years, I've seen, of course, a transformation. I started from a pre-internet age, when there was no Google to
Yes.
get some archives. We had to go to the library and, ask around senior journalists to get a background of different news developments. So over the years, Google came, Internet came, started off with a pager and all that. So I've seen the technological transformation.
Yes.
But every time you have these deadlines, okay, so it's a daily deadline.
Yeah.
That makes all the difference between anything what you see elsewhere and a newsroom atmosphere. And it keeps changing. So what you plan in the morning meeting is totally different from what happens in the evening, because afternoon some major accident or an air crash or something would have happened. So you have to be flexible and fast and quick footed to first decide, tell the reporters, arrange photographs, visuals, have infographics, background. So it's a very fast-paced kind of atmosphere. So there's a lot of excitement. So over the years, because of intense competition from multiple platforms, you have had this kind of energy within that. So in the process, I've also seen a lot of compromises and even burnouts. And a lot of people, also they come with a lot of expectations and then sometimes wither out. So
Okay.
there's positives and negatives.
So you say deadline plays a major role in the newsroom. Okay. I always say that the shelf life of newspaper is like boiled down to just one day compared to the digital or right now the online or magazines, right? And, from your wide experience, how do you build a story? What is your process or what is your style of building a story?
A story is like, I try to look at a trend. So I deliberately kept away from political reporting to understand the city in a more comprehensive, deeper sense. So you need to, for instance, if there's a series of accidents happening in one junction, I'm telling a simple illustration.
Yes.
So you need to look at the trends and what causes those accidents, and who are these victims, and what time of the day it happens. So you need to find a trend. Now that you can use AI to analyze that.
Yes, yes.
So you have to build connections, interlinkages, and the challenge is to tell a story in a way which is very, consumable to even a high school student. So that's the challenge of a good journalist.
Okay, okay.
So
One thing which we also face, these issues because news breakdowns right now every hour that we have, unlike the DD days and right now we have multiple platforms when news come out. Now, if we have to do a reporting on the newspaper for next day, is there a challenge that because news is already broken out, for example, like you said, in the evening something just breaks out, how do you manage that, or how do you, kind of bridge that gap because it's already out there and freshly you need to put something at the headline for your story, right? How do you manage that, Rashid?
So that's a challenge now because we have an information overload, right? Through
Yes.
multiple platforms. You see it on TV, people get it on Twitter or
Yes.
Facebook or multiple, the things like One Shot and all that. So, suppose something has happened, they know. But the thing is, how do we go beyond the headlines? How do you attract readers to go beyond the headlines? What is the other side of a particular story? For instance, there's an accident, so many people have died, we know that, but then how it has affected the family, for instance,
Yes.
and what caused those accidents? It's not immediately discernible on the day of the accident. Next day you need to go and dig up these stories. So these reporters have to go dig up the stories and and also present a story in such a way that it's much more interesting, you know. So yeah, the challenge is to make the headlines interesting,
Interesting.
you know,
Yeah, right.
headlines catchy, and put it on social media so that people click on that and get back to
Come
the
back to
story.
the page.
Yeah.
Yes. Rashid, you've just said, a bit of political news and other things, when you write about the city, I'm sure there was a lot of pressure. At any point of time, was your integrity, at stake, saying that pull down the story or whatever it is? Maybe a light thoughts. I know this is a little hard-hitting question, but, trying to understand that.
For instance, I've been writing on mobility,
Oh,
and the state government and
yeah.
policies have been very focused on the vehicles, the motorized transport. So I am trying to push with a lot of other people who are campaigning for it, for a people-friendly. So you need to have mobility policy that moves people and not move vehicles. So you build infrastructure, which only, flyovers and tunnel roads and all that. So in the process, when you put this up, people who are supporting those kind of things try to troll you on, because I am active on multiple social media
Yes,
platforms.
yes.
So they've accused me that I have a vested interest, and who are you? Why are you bringing this up? No. So I remember I wrote several articles against some signal-free corridors, where the pedestrians, old people, are supposed to climb those skywalks to go, so that the vehicles can speed past.
Yes.
You know, so
That was a big news that time,
yeah. So why do you make those senior citizens go up? They say there's a lift, but 90% of the lifts attached to skywalks
Yes.
don't work in Bangalore. So these are the kind of things. So I get trolled. Of course,
But coming back to that, the trolling part, because now on social media, it's very important, like not important, it's become a norm, right? But how do you, manage those scrolls, or how do you kind of saying people, sometimes they might not like what you write, no? Then how do you face that?
no, I respond to
Everything.
every just because many of my friends have told me, why do you respond? But the thing is that it's like running away from the problem, you know. So unless you counter the trolls, because every time you counter the troll, there are many others who will see your point of view
And they'll
and
support.
say, okay, what he says, there's a point.
Yes, yes.
But when you're sitting on your, high flaunting castles and say that they are too low for my responses, I don't believe in that kind of approach.
Okay. And we have also off late, we have seen many journalists are slightly moving away, especially the senior journalism. They, they retire or move to a corpcom role, or they do something else related to creative. Why we are seeing that journalists are just moving away from the core journalism?
Because the commercials, it's a commercial problem, it's a
Yeah,
financial
yeah,
problem,
yeah.
because many of the newspapers, because I'm from a newspaper background, are struggling because the readership of newspapers are dropping. Even Times of India is losing circulation, the
Yes, yes.
highest circulated.
Yeah.
Every newspaper is, and the newsprint cost is gone many-fold, gone up many-fold, which means the newspapers have to do a lot of balancing. In the process, they're cutting down on number of reporters and reducing salaries, and some of the growth has completely, stopped in among salaries. So, which means there's a lot of disillusionment, and good hands are not coming in.
Okay.
Good hands are not coming in, and it's an unfortunate development.
During COVID, we've seen, the sheets were like slashed down, and, all that we've seen. That was the very difficult times for everything, especially the, this field, we saw that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now we've like, with regards to journalism, is there anything else in like that you would want to share with us before I move to the PR bit of it, which is the core, another core part of our discussion?
Yeah, because media, especially I can speak for newspapers.
Yes.
Newspapers go a little deeper.
Yes.
The thing is, unlike television, which is almost dependent on bites, we go much beyond that.
Okay.
Reporters spend at least 5 to 6 hours searching for a story, looking at multiple versions of the story, verifying those facts, so that it's filtered across multiple layers, and then put in the paper. Whereas in television, people just blurt out, and then that is enough for a week long,
Yeah. Okay.
conversation
Okay.
at the 9 p.m. prime time. So we need more people to read the newspapers. How do you get the readers back to the newspapers? The youngsters are not reading the newspapers. How do you get them back? So these are the challenges. I think it's not easy for getting solutions, but I think there has to be a lot of brainstorming within the media circles.
Yeah, I think maybe why I'll tell you, which is because I'm, 70s born, and we start our day with a newspaper. Like every household, I'm like, if my mother is a teacher, and if you're very strict policy that you have to read a newspaper. Rashid, just wanted to add this my experience. Whenever I traveled, on work, the first thing when I go and switch on and the TV in the hotel room is to check how many news channel and how many newspapers the hotel room has. That was a really relatively low number of this one. I mean, to track for us also. But right now, the amount of newspapers or the amount of publications which are just there is like the human brain or the PR brain. How do we even process it? Because at the end of the day, we were supposed to be on top of the news, right? It's so difficult, no? Like we find it very challenging.
Yeah, it's an overload. It's a
Yeah,
problem
just,
of information
yeah,
overload.
now you have also moved into teaching. Do you think that the curriculum, whatever is like currently just going on, I'm like, do you think that matches the industry standards?
I think there are a lot of reality checks are happening.
Both, be it journalism or the PR, because there are courses right now. Because when I got into PR, there was no courses as such for PR. We learned it everything on the go. But now there's a new course which is just started. But do you think that is matching up what the requirement needs of the industry?
I think we need to rethink the way media education itself in terms of framing curriculum. We have had 2-3 big time journalism schools closing down due to lack of students.
Okay, okay.
So we had the Cummins, we had the journalism in the Columbia based. They had a tie up with the Indian Institute of News Media and the Journalism. They have closed down. And then a couple of other big institutions teaching journalism have been forced to close shutters because of lack of students. And I think it is a trend, it's a dangerous trend, because less number of good journalists coming in means people are dictated by shallow
Yes.
interpretation of developments that matter close to your life.
Okay. Now, another important factor in the PR, what I believe is, we've been taught that you have to build up a good relationship with a journalist. And when we started, our career, we used to be sent out to media rounds very often. Just go, and we used to introduce newer ways to come and meet you people. And sometimes there are people where we are not allowed in Zoom. But we, like, I know what are the kind of tricks that we use to come and meet journalists and on media rounds, and we say, can we do that? Can we meet for a cup of coffee? All that. But in the current scenario, the way things are going, you still get that kind of meeting that PR people come and meet you.
Yeah, there are especially business journalists get these kind of
Okay.
they do have a the thing is I mean, business journalists have to depend on PR to get through to many of these corporate clients unless you are a senior person. So I think they still do.
They still do. Oh,
still do,
it's
yeah.
nice that way. Then, any kind of tips according to you that a PR person can build upon? What, according to you, are the skill sets that we PR people should have or build upon? With this new AI thing coming in, can I like to know that from you.
Basically, the thing is, even from the drafting of the press release, because what happens is that a press release is usually, a company focused kind of thing. So you have to go look at a press release through a journalist's eyes. What is the news part in that? I know you have to highlight the company's profile, but then it can come in I mean, I think you need to be a little subtle in that, because what is happening is even newspapers are making a lot of distinctions in between. There is ad department, there is marketing department, editorial department. So they are also getting smarter now, newspapers,
Yes.
because revenue is a scarce resource, you know. So they are saying that, if we are giving them publicity, then we need to get something in return. So that is the dynamics of the new,
New thing. Okay.
new system. So how do you work around it? So how do you bring in value for both journalism? I mean, for an outsider as a reader, how is he benefited from this particular news? So I think you need to balance between the company's requirement.
Maybe a revenue for the newspapers, put it that way. No.
That would be like aiding some kind of, blatantly put it as corruption.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But the thing is, there are ways of working around it. Public service journalism is something. So, if you can, like CSR activities of companies can be projected in a way that it benefits all. It's all about the language, the tone, and all that.
Can you just share us some insights or tips on how do we PR people improve the relationship with a journalist?
So many journalists have heard that PR people contact them only when the company wants them. So there are many occasions where the journalists want to get some quote from a company head, and sometimes it's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And journalists, as I told you earlier, they are working under high pressure. Deadlines are approaching. So if you can get a response from the responsible person in the company quickly, and you do it in a very consistent way, so at least if the top guy is not available, maybe the second top guy or a spokesperson, and if the responses are specific to the question and not very evasive or trying to work around the question, then I think it's one way of building the relationship.
Okay, that way. All right. Got. Any other tips that you can give us?
No, I know a lot of tips in the sense. I think building a bond, because I don't like journalists treating PR as another. I want them to be civilized in the way they treat journalists.
But in the
PR
last
people.
recent past, I can share those news with you. The amount of things that the journalists have put on social media and the news in an ET also saying about, that, the way we are and how we function kind of a thing.
Is it negative or positive?
Yeah, it is negative. That's the reason. I can share that.
No, I don't agree in that fashion, because I know some PR people are very pushy, and there is a space where they keep violating, but there are also very very many PR people who maintain that distance, and then
Yes.
respect the privacy of the journalist and all that. They need to be acknowledged, and I feel the journalist being rude to a PR is a complete no from my side.
Okay.
I think they have no right to be having two horns as a journalist and treat PR people that way.
And what are the skill sets? I'm like coming specifically, be it writing well, doing more research or everything from a journalist point of, from a PR point of view. We have to have these skill sets, but according to you, the top skill sets that we need to have and we can build on those skill sets.
A sense of news, what constitutes news, and a language which is very easy to understand. So even if a company is coming with a lot of facts and figures, make it easier for the journalist to filter that, technical details in a much more
Simple
way, because the journalist is hard pressed for time. So, and if you can highlight the main things in a company's press release right at the beginning,
Yes.
not just about the company, about how it's going to impact everybody. These are some of the qualities, I think.
Good. Thank you so much for giving those thing. And then one thing that I think I kind of missed out to ask you is, in your entire of 28 years of experience, that one story which was very challenging, for you to do it, or maybe I would want to hear more about it.
One story.
Yeah, one story which would give us some, that which you feel, it took a lot out from you, and it could be that.
Okay. So there are different kind of stories, but I think in the beginning, when I joined the profession, I was a cub reporter as a crime reporter, and the entire city was burning within 2 months of me joining.
Hmm.
So I remember sitting in the city police commissioner's car, and he going through some of the riot-prone areas, and then there were people waiting to throw crude bombs onto the police, the vehicles.
Hmm.
So those were very interesting times, and
Which
it was
was
a,
which part? For when was
this
this?
was in Chamarajpet area.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So the entire city was burning nearly. There was firing, lathi charge, riots in multiple pockets of Bangalore.
Yes.
And I was a cub reporter trying to learn the ropes. It was by trial by fire almost.
Sounds also scary.
Yeah.
I think I know that. Okay, that was a little challenging for
Yeah,
you. Okay. Now, how do you balance all this, Rashid? Like now you also actively write also, right? That's what you said in your teaching, and you also have this artistic thing. How do you manage all this?
So basically, right now I am balancing between media, art, and teaching. So teaching in the sense I do workshops, visual communication workshops in colleges, and so I feel as a mainstream journalist I used to be doing it every day.
Okay.
But now I have a little more time in going in depth and writing long form stories.
Okay.
So I write for the Hindu, News Minute, and multiple other publications. So and art, I've been a cartoonist. I've
Yes,
had
I
50.
see, and I really love whatever you put out, and I like the way you play with words.
So sometimes
Yeah.
I visualize these kind of
Yes,
things.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the initiative where you call it as Art Bengaluru Collective.
Yeah. So Art Bangalore Collective is like me and a friend, Raji. We both started something called, we thought we need to democratize art and art appreciation. So you have at one end, you have the Chitra Sante, where thousands of people come in
Yes.
and all that. And another
last
end,
day of
you have the
January.
elitist galleries. So we wanted to be a in-between space. So we take up galleries and allot space to these artists in a gallery setup.
Okay, all right, all right.
So we
a
had-
smaller version of the Chitrasante
No, it's not as crowded. It's like a gallery.
gallery. Okay.
Gallery there. So we give space within galleries. So we had 5 shows so far.
No,
Nearly 130 artists are connected with us.
we've come to the fag end of our, conversation, and we have an interesting surprise round called the signature round. Before even we move there, is there anything that you want to cover up or add anything if I missed to ask you?
Uh, so when you said cover up, like we only cover, not cover up.
Okay, I think I think
There
I
are two
should.
kinds of journalists.
No. I should, knowing, because I appreciate you with the words, I think I have to be very careful about the words that I use. Yes.
So there are journalists who cover a function. There are journalists who expose a development,
Yes,
expose secrets, scandals. So there are a lot of mix and match and all that.
I got that. Got that. I think my lessons learned to be very careful the choice of words. Is there anything you would want to add here?
No, I want a very robust, strong media because that is extremely essential for a democracy to function. And we need good people to come into journalism. Good people who tell real stories. Real stories, verifiable, true stories. That is not fake news. And trying to curate good stories from this information overload. And that can happen only when you have a system where you have good professionals, balanced people at all levels of the media.
Okay. And on Another interesting thing that we've seen is that a lot of young journalists coming in and young PR people joining in. What are your thoughts about this?
So youngsters are uh, coming in, but they don't have the depth. I think it's time that at least they have to be trained properly. You
Okay,
know,
okay.
so and they should know what is news and what is not news.
That is
So
why I asked you this question. Is the curriculum kind of relevant to, the industry requirement?
I think now that a lot of people, as you told earlier, that many senior journalists are getting off journalism and getting into different fields. I think many of them also trained their hand at guest lectures and all that. So they come with a lot of industry experience. They have seen the ups and downs of media. I think if they can share that and help in building curriculum, being part of board of studies of different universities and colleges, I think it's high time they shape the curriculum in a way that is more attuned to the needs of the industry and the challenges.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. I think let's move on to the next session.
Sure.
The last segment is the signature round,
Okay.
where we're going to have for fun, which I usually do a signature round with a Q&A, like a rapid fire, but this, since it's here, we're going to do it with a fun game, and with every dart you hit, I'm going to give you a rapid fire question.
Okay.
Okay, should we start?
Sure.
That's a good one. Okay, the first question in the rapid fire round, your three friends from the industry.
Oh my God. Three friends.
Yes.
Okay. There is one Chandrakant, one Naveen. How do I say it? When so many people are then Darshan.
Okay. That's a good one. Very close to the center. Okay, the second one is, if you were not a journalist.